We're going to build an off-market tired landlord list for Owensboro, Kentucky. Spoiler alert, there's over 1,200 tired landlords that fit our criteria. And this is for married busy parents who have 0 to 3 rentals and has a target or a goal to acquire 1 to 4 off-market properties per year. And it's a very easy method. We're not talking about hiring a VA team. We're not talking about cold calling yourself. We're just going to identify who they are, and then we're going to contact and follow up. I'm going to get into that here in just a second, but let's just brag on Owensboro, Kentucky here for just a minute. This is the picture that I found when I was doing some research here. This is this is on the Ohio River, right across the river. I guess this is over here on this side is Indiana. Just a beautiful river walk. I mean, this playground, my kids would be all over it. This is just awesome. Looks like there's an event center here. I don't know. This is incredible. They've made very good use out of the space, and I can see why days on market is still relatively low. If this has any, which I believe it does, representation of what Owensboro, Kentucky can provide. So let's get into the market brief real quick. So here's why we like it from a BRRRR standpoint. Very small population. If you've watched any of these that I've done, you realize we focus on smaller markets because there's less competition there. And so Owensboro population 60,183 according to, I think that's a typo. I think it's the 2010 census. However, growth since 2010 is positive, right? It's 5%, which is ideal for what we're looking at. I know in some past videos, we've looked at some areas that grew by 20+%, which is overwhelming. The big thing here when I look at any new market is just to determine, is there some growth, right? If it's negative growth, let's figure out why. Was part of the city annexed for some reason? Or is it just all the jobs are leaving and now people are leaving too? I tend to stay away from those types of areas. The other thing I really like about Owensboro, Kentucky, is their days on market is still pretty strong. It is 42 days on market, according to this article from Redfin here, which is not too bad versus some of the other things that we're seeing. And this is just a slight change from 35 days in late 2025. So hats off to the realtors in Owensboro who are making that still happen. Anytime we look at an area like this, we want to look at what is the nearest major MSA, right? So Evansville, Indiana, which if you look on this map is just a little bit to the northwest here. It's about 40 miles. Again, another typo. It's 40 miles northwest, not south. Population of 115,000 plus. A couple major interstates coming through here, 65, 165, all good for traffic. All good for traffic. I don't know why I just said that. Anyway, medium home value, 211,000, right in the middle of where we want to see for properties to flip or for rentals. Medium gross rent, a couple different resources I checked were around $1,350 a month for 3-2 single family residents. If you're in Owensboro, I would love for you to correct me if I'm wrong or tell me that I'm right. Either way, on the average rent that you're seeing or you're able to pull for 3-2s in that area. Here's why we like it from a BRRRR fit. Still some affordable older housing. I love older houses, mainly because a lot of people stay away from them. But there's some real value in there. It's a steady rental market, plenty of long-time owners. Make this a strong tired landlord list building market. As you saw, it's not a 60,000 residents, 12,000 tired or not 12,000, 1,200 plus tired landlords just in this market alone. So, excuse me, let's dive into what I'm talking about for tired landlords. So I did cheat a little bit. I'm going to clear this out. This is PropStream. If you're not familiar with PropStream, this is how we build our list. And I just erased the zip code that I was looking for. Oh, here it is. 42303 there in Kentucky. Now, Owensboro may span for more than one zip code. We're going to look at just 42303 for the sake of this live that we're doing today. And by the way, I'm going to show you a couple of different tools all of which could be found or can be found in, there should be a comment somewhere around wherever you're watching this that's going to show you all the tools that we're using so you can use them too. Most of them offer a free trial, or like in this case, PropStream offers, I think it's 25,000 free leads if you register using our link. So anyway, here's how I build our off-market list. And we do this knowing that you're a married, busy parent. You don't need more hustle. You just need more time. When you can't produce more time, you start outsourcing the things that you really hate. Most people hate creating lead generation through off-market campaigns. That's where we can come in to help you. But for those very strong-willed folks, you want to do it yourself, you can easily follow what I'm about to show you and create your own campaign, right? So starting with PropStream, we enter the zip code that we're targeting, and then we're going to go to filters, and I'm going to expand my screen a little bit just so I've got the resolution set to where not everything shows up like I want it to. Let me see how this is following up here. What I'm trying to get to show you, and I don't know that I can. Let's see if can I move this over just for a minute? Okay. What I'm trying to show you is this button right here. This is where PropStream makes it real easy, is this tired landlord button. Let me back up, getting a little ahead of myself. So inside this zip code 42303, there are 18,483 properties. Now, that is everything from raw land to commercial retail space, right? And everything in between. We want to narrow this list down to single family or 1 to 4 unit properties that are owned by tired landlords. Tired landlords, just by definition, is somebody who's on the property for at least 15 years and is not owner occupying the property, right? It's therefore we know it as a rental. So PropStream makes this real easy for us. We're going to choose tired landlords. They got a real easy button. And then we're going to start filter stacking here. We're going to make sure we're looking at residential, specifically single family, multifamily 2 to 4. And as I'm choosing these filters, you're going to see this button or this number change, right? And this is how many records are still available with the criteria that we've used. We always exclude HOAs. We always exclude properties with a pool. Just from a rental standpoint, just staying out of HOA's way. And then also with pools, there's usually some maintenance and liability that most people don't want to deal with unless you have a short-term rental in, let's say, Florida, right? We're talking about long-term today. MLS, we're going to choose off-market. And then the last thing that we're going to choose, notice I skipped over owner occupied. We don't have to choose that because when we choose the tired landlord button, it automatically filters that in. We can choose it here if we want. This number should not change, right? And then owner type individual. Reason being, we like mom and pops. Mom and pops are a lot easier to get in front of versus corporations or a trust or a mix of both. And so we want to know who the individuals are. So as I said at the top of the video, there are over 1,200 properties in PropStream that hit that criteria. So, and here they are, right? We're just going to browse through and look at a couple of them. One thing I don't add initially is the value of these properties. Now, most folks, when they're going after, and this depends on your area, right? So most folks that we work with, they are focused on rental properties that range in the value of somewhere between 100 to 300,000 per door, right? So if we wanted to add that to our criteria, this is where we would do that. For the sake of this, we're just going to leave it as is because it looks like, and especially with that median home value at 211, I kind of knew this would be, where most of those properties would fall. So, and continue on, sorry about the cough. Continue on to building our off-market campaign. We're going to take actions. We're going to save these, and we're just going to create a new list. We're going to Owensboro live, because that's what we're doing right now, right? Owensboro live. Going to take a minute to save it. And then I'm going to shrink my screen down a little bit because I don't think we need to. I want y'all to be able to see everything. Yeah, hopefully y'all can see that. And if you're here in the chat with us, leave me a comment. Let me know what's going on. If there's any questions I can answer for you, that would be awesome. So let's see. Let's see here. Moving a lot of windows around. Make sure y'all can see what I'm seeing. Let's take this up a little bit. Okay. All right. Here we go. So now that we have saved our list, we're going to go over to my properties, and we're going to scroll down until we find Owensboro. And the reason we're doing this, we're going to clean this list up just a little bit before we export it. And for a couple of reasons. Number one, we're going to scroll through here. There's three things that we look at when I'm doing this cleanup list. Number one, making sure there's an address. I should have left the last view, but I'll get to that in a minute, where it said no address. Typically, that means there's just something wrong with the data, or it was incorrectly pulled into with our criteria. So, which also means something's wrong with the data, because if there's no street address there, either somebody just didn't type it in at the county level, or it's a raw piece of land and 911 service, or, there's never been a building on it, so 911 service has never been established. Therefore, there's no address. The second thing we do, and I'll walk you through this here in just a second, is we eliminate any owner who has a mailing address of a P.O. box, because we get more return to senders from those P.O. boxes, and it's just a waste of advertising dollars. The third thing we look at is unit number on the rental property itself. We're not looking to buy a condo or anything that has a unit number associated with it. It's just not something that we're looking at. So while it might be a single family, if there's a unit number, it usually means it's attached to some other building, right? There's some shared space there, and we particularly stay away from that, right? Because there could have been, let's say it's a 4-unit that at some point in time the owner divided all 4 up and sold them off individually. I just want to own the 4-unit. I don't want to own one property inside a 4-unit. Hopefully that makes sense. So we go to unit number here. A lot of these have unit numbers. I'm going to scroll through, and I'm just going to delete a couple of them just to show you how this would work, right? And we're going to go to delete records. Yep, we're fine with removing them. I'm going to sort by address again and go to the very, very bottom, and we're going to see several probably that have no addresses. Now remember, there was 1,200 and when we started. Now, ideally, or most people that we work with, most married busy parents, they're only going to send 300 to 400 mailers a quarter. That typically produces them 1 to 4 rental properties a year. And so we're not looking at mailing 1,200 pieces of mail today, right? So here are addresses or properties that don't have a number associated with them. They look excuse me, you can identify them one of two ways. A, there's no number at the beginning, right? Or they have this no street address, right? So we would choose all of those, and just like before, we would delete those records. Now, I didn't choose all of them just for the sake of time. I think it'd be kind of boring for you guys to watch me do that. And then we're going to scroll over to looking at the owner's information. Hopefully y'all can see that. Let me see if I gotta, I'm gonna have to, I don't know what's wrong with the resolution today. I did something, I'm sure of it. But here we get into the mailer care of name, and we're looking at mailer address, because this is where we're going to send those mailers to, right? And we're going to sort by to find the P.O. boxes. And same thing, we're going to select all the ones that have P.O. boxes. We're going to delete those. We don't necessarily care to export them. a common question here is, Jay, can't you just clean that up once you export it to Excel? Yes, we can do that. So that would be the next step, right? Once we get the list the way we want it here, we would go and we would export it into Excel, or, we can import it into Google Sheets or whatnot. And it's going to look something, well, I was going to open it up, but I don't have that ready to share with y'all. So we're going to export it and we could clean it up that way. Very interesting stuff. Very, very interesting stuff. So I'm liking Owensboro, Kentucky, not only just because of the amount of tired landlords that are there, but also just all the demographic information, and I can't get past that Riverwalk. I kind of, as we travel this summer, I don't know if we're going through Owensboro, Kentucky or not, but it's definitely on my list just from that one picture. So hats off to whoever put that on. And thank you for letting me borrow it. That's awesome. All right. So we've got those properties. Now, what do we do? Right now, we take those, we do a mail merge into our templates that we already have built out. We print them off. We hand address the mailers. We put them in these brightly colored envelopes. Put, handwritten addresses on them. Put a real stamp on it. No pre-sorted first class. We don't want our mailers, or you don't want your mailers to look like a piece of junk mail, because believe me when I tell you, these tired landlords, they've owned it for 15 years. They've seen every postcard. They've seen every piece of junk mail that comes across that's looking to get a quick sale, right? And this is where we're a little different, is we want our presentation. I don't have a finished one, but I'll show you what the envelopes look like. I mean, they're brightly colored, birthday card style envelopes like this. They're in every color in the rainbow plus some. And then because you want it to look presentable, you want them to initially open it, right? You don't want it to go from their mailbox to the trash can. And then once they open it, our template is very non-salesy. It's basically an introduction. Hey, Mr. Landlord, if you're ever interested in selling 123 Main Street, please let me know. I'm looking to buy 1 or 2 properties this year in this city, right? And then just to make sure they know that you're local to Owensboro, Kentucky, we put a picture of you and your family, maybe at the Riverwalk. I mean, I can't get over the Riverwalk, but somewhere local that they know that you're not, just some fly-by-night operation in South Florida. Okay, just trying to pull one over for them. And the idea is we're building a relationship there, right? One of the things that we also do when we're curating our list in Excel is we look for duplicate addresses. We're looking for landlords who have more than one property. Let's say they have 10. We're not going to send them 10 pieces of mail. We're going to send them one. And then when they call us and say, hey, I want to sell that one piece of property you contacted me about for 30% over what Zillow says it's worth, we laugh. We try to get them to laugh. We say, hey, I'm not your buyer for that. But tell me about the biggest pain in your ass property that you have in your portfolio right now. Every landlord has one. And if you can solve their problem for that one, again, we're trying to build a relationship, right? If you can solve their problem with that one, then they are more than likely going to call you when they're ready to dispose of any of the other ones, right? This has been proven time and time again with members of our community who follow this strategy. So I'm just telling you, it works. It's awesome. It's just awesome to see see it come. Awesome to see the folks who are following the guidance and working the leads. And this happening. Matter of fact, we had a member who just closed on their second property from the same landlord. Just they closed on their first property back in October, November. Closed on the second property just a couple weeks ago. Just awesome to see. Awesome to see. Speaking of Zillow, let's look and see what is currently on the market. I found a few properties. We're going to look at a couple and underwrite at least this one here on Allen Street. I like the yellow door. I do. However, it took me a minute to realize it wasn't just a piece of plywood. I don't know why, but I thought it was boarded up. Which when I thought it was boarded up, I was like, "Oh, this is opportunity." However, this has been done pretty nicely. Let's take a look at the pictures. And let's, before we look at pictures, this is a single family, small lot, built in 1931, like that it's older. Does not appear to be in an HOA. 2-bed, 2-bath, on the market for just 19 days. Now, most experienced investors will tell you there are neighborhoods in every market that is Q or not Q. It is primed for rental properties, and there are some neighborhoods that are primed for flipping properties. I don't know enough about Owensboro to know if Allen Street is a street where you rent or flip, or maybe a hybrid of both. If you're from Owensboro, let me know. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on Allen Street. And this says Zillow says 3-bed, but down here in the listing, the main level features 2-bed, 2 full baths. Okay. It's important to read the entire description, right? All right, let's take a look. 1,200 square feet. Nicely done on the inside. I've got to imagine the hardwoods are original, and they look awesome. So this is not one that I don't think you would BRRRR. That I think this has been done. This has kind of been a turnkey. I will tell you the cabinets, this paint scheme makes my head twirl a little bit. And this finish above the sink, and looks like there's another window here. I just know those are older cabinets just by looking at that. Unfortunately, it looks like they painted over the hardware and everything. They just painted white. So will that bring the rents that are needed? I don't know. It actually looks like it's a pretty spacious kitchen, right? And for some reason, they chose not to paint this side of the cabinet. So didn't spend any money in the kitchen. Well, I take that back. They spent some money on appliances. I don't know what that is. That handle on that. Somebody tell me what that is. I've never seen a stove like that. Looks to be gas, which is awesome. Energy efficient, right? That's an interesting. Where'd it go? Interesting step down here. Looks like maybe that door just goes outside. Some hooks to just the mud room, and maybe behind it looks like there's a door frame there. Maybe that's where the laundry is. We'll find out. Maybe. One thing about just thinking about it or mentioning gas. This conversation came up yesterday or earlier this week as we were underwriting a property, and I asked the potential buyers, like, who pays for utilities? He goes, I don't know. I was like, I got to find out. That definitely can affect cash flow. I was like, so who pays for landscaping? Like, who takes care of the grass, snow removal? Again, I don't know. I was like, all right, we got to find that out. I like the chalkboard there, the chalkboard wall. That's pretty cool. This looks a little older tile. Maybe you could BRRRR it. We'll see. What is going on with that wall? Maybe they were swatching paint colors to see what worked best, and they didn't update the pictures, or they didn't update the room. I'm going to say they didn't update the pictures. This looks nice. Is that a basement area? Is that cork or plywood? Little drop down ceiling. This looks like it's maybe in the basement. I bet this is what they're counting as the third bath. Laundry is downstairs. I wonder if that door, when you walk into the kitchen, or you would step up in the kitchen, if the steps go down into that one. Furnace looks relatively new. Want to check it out? Want to make sure, right? This looks like a wash area for an insane asylum. I don't know what would that have been used for. Interesting tile work there. That's Garage, this goes upstairs, and maybe some unfinished space. Kind of cool. Okay. Shed out back, fenced in yard. All right. Let's do this. Let's underwrite this. I use Deal Check. It is one of the easiest calculators that I have found, and I'll show you why here in just a minute. I enter 1329 Allen. It immediately brings up Owensboro, Kentucky. Do a search. We're not going to save that address. And it starts pulling in all the data, right? And it doesn't matter if it's a listed property or if it's off market. It's going to pull in as much information as it can. Now, if it's on the MLS, it's going to pull in the most recent pictures like you see here. If it's truly a tired landlord property, we'll find one on that prop stream address here in a minute, and we'll look it up, our prop stream list. I'll show you the difference. All right. Year built, 1931. We established that. Deal Check Zestimate has 183, which is close to what the listing offer is. Where'd I go? Let me move this over here. Realtor.com estimate 134. I don't know where that number came from. It's pretty far off. That 1340 per month aligns with what we thought average rent was going to be. Tax amount 306. The important thing about taxes, you just need to know how they're calculated and when the county calculates them, because if this 306 number was based on the last time it sold, which was when? In 2013. No, it was listed. It sold. The last time it sold was in 2005, right? So it's very possible that this tax number here is based off of that 2005 sell price. So that was 20 years ago. Need to find out if you were to buy it for, whatever the price is today. It's obviously more than $78,000. What does that do to your taxes? Property insurance, that just seems a little low. I don't know. Just want to make a note to verify that your insurance is going to be close to that. All right. We're going to save and customize. We're going to play around with the numbers a little bit. First thing I want to point out here is this red X. This is because it is checking automatically against my criteria. You put in your criteria, whatever your criteria is. Right now I have this. I at least want to cash flow $200 per door. Cash on cash return is 8% at minimum. And then the debt coverage ratio is 1.25 because most of the loans that we're getting are DSCR loans, and they want to see that 1.25 ratio is covered. That cough came out of nowhere. Sorry. Let me go back. So far, we know at least two of those are not being met, and we're going to find out why. And not only are we going to find out why, we're going to find out what our offer needs to be and able to hit those. And you're going to quickly see that this is probably not going to work, right? All right. Just go through. This is our purchase worksheet. We're going to assume that we do buy it for, let's just put 183 in there just to match what the deal check estimate was. We're going to use a DSCR loan, 25% of the purchase price. Interest rate, we're going to do 6.5%. It is 30-year amortization. Purchase cost, we're going to leave it 3%. Here's where it gets fun. Here's where we start playing with the numbers. Is there anything that we would do to rehab the property to make it rent ready? Now, I think it's rent ready as is. There's a couple things I don't like about it, just the way the kitchen looks, but we're talking, are we going to spend, $10,000 in the kitchen, because that's about what it was going to take. And then that bedroom downstairs, are we going to do anything with it? The attic space, we're going to do anything with it, right, to make it livable. I tend to look at, I will be willing to spend money if it increases the rental income. Okay. Now, even though I'm going to say we're not planning to do anything to it, I always put in $1,000 because there's always something that comes up, right? There's always something that comes up. So I'm going to leave it there as $1,000. And then I'm going to get back to, I lost my window. Okay. And then I'm going to leave rental income as is. We're going to assume we can get it 1340 as is condition. This was another one that we looked at. Let me grab this and throw this into RentCast. Now, RentCast is the sister company of DealCheck. So a lot of it should show 1340 as well because it's pulling that data from there. Yeah. Okay. The cool thing about this is it gives you comps. It tells you where they are. You can look at all this. One thing I didn't look at this and I highly recommend you do is making sure, at least something I do, I don't invest in flood zone areas. Just seeing that, being that close to the river, maybe it's not that close at all. Maybe it's just zoomed out pretty far. I always want to verify we're not in a flood zone. Obviously, that's going to affect insurance, but I just don't want to deal with the headache, right? So I stay out of that. 1340 for gross rent, vacancy rate. I'm not going to put 10%. 7. Usually, when you get the right tenant in there, and tenant placement is huge, right? You're going to get 3 years out of the person on average, and then sometimes longer than that, but on average 3. And then turnover is probably about 3 to 4 weeks of rehab, right? So 3 weeks out of 36, that's about 10%, actually. Operating expense, that's a little high. We do self-manage. We're going to do 30% of rent for operating expense. Long-term projections, I just leave the default in there. I don't really pay much attention to that. And I'm not really sure what the land value is, so we're just going to leave that as is. It really doesn't affect what we're trying to do here, which is get to an offer price, right? All right, so let's take a look at the property analysis. Not bad, not great. I mean, as is, if we bought it for 183 and everything else stands to be true, and this is with our, we verify, no, we got to change insurance. Insurance is going to be higher. Oh, we didn't itemize it out. That's right. If we did, we could actually put in here, property taxes are probably going to be somewhere around the $700 range. Insurance is probably going to be around somewhere $1,250. I don't include a management fee. I just pay myself out of distributions if there are any. Maintenance. It is an older home, so I plan for 10%. CapEx, did it list? The roof looks newer. Doesn't say, or at least I don't see it. But the roof looks newer. That's a big ticket item. The furnace looked newer. Again, we want to check just to make sure. Appliances look fairly new. Also, if this is a rental, I see the washer and dryer listed here. There's a constant debate going on in the community is, do you provide appliances, not just washer and dryers, but then also refrigerators in the kitchen? I don't like providing them because I don't like providing washer and dryers. In the event that they tear up, it's your responsibility to fix them, right? Same thing with refrigerators as well. Refrigerators are heavy. They're awkward. They're huge. I would rather not risk it being moved in and moved out when a tenant turns to do that. So anyway, I'm going to lower this to 2% because it looks like everything's okay. We're also going to assume that there is no HOA. The tenant's paying for utilities. The tenant's also paying for landscaping, right? So with all those, we come out to 324. It's 1340. Was that at? Is that 30%? Do I have that right? It's not quite 30%. We're going to be conservative. We're going to leave it at 30%. Okay. We're going to go back to our property analysis. Okay. We're at $14 a month in cash flow, which is not a whole lot of money. Remember, there's no property management fee in there because we self-manage. Let's add. Because we used Hemlane to self-manage with. I was trying to think. You saw this probably smoke coming out of my ears. We use Hemlane to self-manage. I'm trying to think what they charge per unit. It's not 5%, but let's say we want to account for that expense. There's also a free version with Hemlane. There's a link somewhere around wherever you're watching this to try out the free version. I'm going to leave 5% in there. Okay, so now we're closer to that 30% number. Wasn't too far off. All right. Now, sorry, skipping around. Cash flow is negative. Cash on cash return is negative. Not a great deal at the current price, right? Or the current interest rates. Those two things are the biggest factors when we're looking at cash flow and cash on cash return. So, not much we can do about interest rate. What we could do, maybe something about the price, right? Let's just see. This is one of the huge benefits I love about Deal Check. They have this option over here for offer calculator. And I tap on it. It immediately tells me what I need to buy it for to hit my criteria that I've listed for it. Amazing, just quick, right? So 123. That's quite a ways from the initial ask, right? So now that we changed it to 123, let's go back to our property analysis. We've got over $200 a month in cash flow. We've got 8.1% cash on cash. Pretty solid. Question is, do you have the stones to make an offer of 123 for something that's listed for 183? Now, it's only been on the market for 19 days. They'll probably laugh, right? Or it's on the market for 184.9, right under 185. If it were me, what I would do, I would save it. I would take a look at it. I would reach out to the realtor and just say, hey, the listing agent, and let them know that I'm interested. But at that price, I can't make it work. Also, excuse me, knowing that the owner has had it for a while, I'm going to assume that they don't have a mortgage on it, which could also offer up some owner financing opportunities. Okay. That's the way that I would handle that. Now let's look at one of these that showed up in our list for Owensboro. All right. $42. I can't see the address either. I don't know why it's cutting it off. All right. So this, we're going to look at 4201 Sellers Point, Kentucky. I like brick, even if it's ugly brick. Built in 1985. Been owned for a while. Sold in 2012. for 86.9. Love it. This is awesome. Let's just throw it in here as if we didn't have to do anything to it. Now, we know we probably will. That's an assumption, right? Maybe not. I did want to show you the difference between a listed property in deal check and an unlisted property. And this is unlisted, right? So you're going to have very similar information. It's going to give you the same kind of idea of what they think it's worth. The rent cast estimate. Remember, that was the sister company to the deal check. I believe you get access to both when you subscribe to deal check. I guess it probably depends on your plan. Notice the taxes are much higher here than the other property we looked at. That's very interesting. I would take a look at that. So is property insurance. Last sold $86,000 in 2015. And here are some properties now, or pictures of the property. Who knows how updated these are? These could be from the listing when it was back in 2015. Okay. Was there any? Yeah. Let's just take a look here, quick gander. We know what we're looking for. Kitchen looks like it has been somewhat updated. Pretty clean tile in the kitchen. Nice backyard. Again, we don't know how old these pictures are. It could look a lot different than this. All right, we're going to leave the purchase. For the sake of the exercise, we're going to leave the purchase price on what was imported. And we're going to go through the same thing, right? This is a DSCR loan. We're at a 6.5 interest rate, long-term 30 years. Rehab cost, we have no idea until we actually walk into it or talk to the owner to get some assumptions. I put $1,000 just in case we buy as is. There's going to be something that comes up. Gross rent $1,210. We're going to change our operating expenses to 30% of rent. Guys, I know I'm flying through this because I think we're way over on time. Anyway, based on what we know, it won't work at 181, right? So that's where we come down to our offer calculator at 106 is our target price. The other thing I didn't mention that you can, think about all these different things, the purchase price, the interest rate. Those are all different levers that you can pull to make sure that a property hits your criteria. The other thing that I failed to mention is rent, right? Is this market rent? Is this what we can get for the current status of the property? Or, it's a three bed, 1 bath. The other 3 bed, 2 bath was getting $1,340. Let's change this to $1,300, see what it does to our property analysis. Still negative, right? Based on current purchase price. Offer calculator, we've came up 10,000. So a lot of different levers, a lot of different ways you can pull data and make sure it works for you. Pulling data, and I don't want to say massaging the numbers because that just seems like you're fudging things, but working it to say, okay, if I make this upgrade, I can charge this amount more for rent. I actually may be able to get a loan, or you've got a term sheet from a lender that can do, a 6% interest rate, right? You want to pull as many levers as you can to make a competitive offer that still works for you. It still works for your criteria, right? If it doesn't, do your best, to make an offer. Be sure that you're known, and then move on, and then sit there and watch it. Back to kind of slide number 1 is the follow-up, right? That's where the money's at, is in the follow-up. I can just promise you that. All right, we're getting over on time, and I'm starting to ramble, so we're going to close it up. This is the kind of stuff we do in the community for our community members. We build these off-market campaigns. We target these smaller communities like Owensboro. There's just a lot of positives with that. And so if you're in Owensboro and you see this and you're interested in what we're doing, send me a message. As long as this video is up, we don't have a member in your area. But once we do have somebody come in and join from Owensboro, we implement something called zip code lock. So the moment that new member comes in, they identify their top 3 to 5 zip codes, and then they are locked out. So for as long as that member is a member, we're not going to bring on anybody else in the community. We're not going to do off-market campaigns for anybody else. So if you're in Owensboro or want to focus on Owensboro market, let me know. Comment wherever you're watching this video. Let me know, hey, I'm interested. Send me a DM. We'll find a time to talk, and we'll go from there. All right? Otherwise, you guys have a great rest of your Wednesday, and I will see you.